So the next thing we're going to cover is the concept of an organization and an account. In GitHub, we have both accounts and organizations. An account is generally associated with an individual user. What we created when we went to the GitHub website at first is an account. An account is essentially one person. They can own repositories. They can be active on any number of repositories they want. They have their own profile, and they can use this site to get a lot of work done. Alternatively, a repository, instead of belonging to an account, could be part of an organization. One example of an organization on the GitHub website is, well, GitHub itself. They do a lot of their own development on GitHub, and as part of that, they have a lot of their code right here. And you can see that they've got a number of members in the system. And those people are all accounts. You'll notice, though, that this organization has a whole bunch of repositories of its own. So that's one of the places that you could do this. So I sort of want to cover really quickly how you can either create an organization or convert your account into an organization. So if you set up an account for maybe your own personal things, but then it picked up and you want to now turn it into an organization, or perhaps you created your company's organization at first as an account, and you have a bunch of repositories associated with it, and now you want to open it up for better collaboration. However you got into this situation, it's pretty easy to do. Let's take a look. From this page, we can go to Account Settings, and that's going to bring up some information about our account. Some of this is self-explanatory, but we're going to go ahead down to this Organizations section. Once we're here, you can see that I'm not currently a member of any organizations, but I'm presented with the options to create a new one or turn my account into an organization. Since I don't want to do the latter, I'm going to do the former. In order to set up an organization, all you have to do is go through, create a name. It's going to be hosted at the same type of place that an account would. It's just going to be github.com/ and then the organization name instead of an account name. You'll set up a billing email so that they know where to send the billing, and you choose which level you want to be working with. If you're open source, you can go ahead and choose the free plan, but if you're a company, they have a number of other plans that will allow you to have private repositories. Once you create your organization, you'll be able to use it for a lot of different purposes. Now that we've gotten this set up, we have to set up our owners. Now this is a very important concept in GitHub. Owners actually have special privileges, more than what a normal member of the organization have. The owner is actually able to modify the billing information, so be very careful about who you give access as an owner. They also have complete access to all repositories and all information about the organization, regardless of individual permissions. Each owner is fully an admin in GitHub. If you want to be more limiting in what access you give to people, you should put them into teams and modify those permissions. So be careful about who you put in the owners. For now, I'm going to go ahead and just stick with having that one demo user be in the owners group and not add anyone else. So now we've been set up with an organization. We can actually create repositories here, and our user account can get access to it. The other cool features that we get now are we can actually choose which account we want to be working on. So we can either be on our user or on our organization, and we can create a new repository in either one. You'll notice now on the new repository window, I can actually choose whether I want to create a repository for either myself or a repository for the organization. I get the option. It's quite nice. So now, every time I go to this page, I can choose whether I want to be my user or on the organization. You'll also see, once you get them, a list of the repositories that belong to this organization. So that's pretty much all we need to cover about how organizations work. We'll talk more about them later, and they're going to come up as we start diving into things, especially as we get into collaboration, social coding, and other workflows. So now that we've seen how to set up organizations and what the difference is between an organization and an account, I want to show a little bit about how we can work with collaborators and members of projects and deal with teams and permissions and take a look at a lot of those different options that we have available to us. Behind the scenes, I went ahead and created a repository in the organization as well. That way, we have a repository in the organization and also in our user account so that we can look at both styles of user permissions and collaboration. I'll start out by showing how collaboration works in a user account. So let's go ahead and switch from the organization over to our user account. When we do this, we're going to go ahead and open up that repository. From here, you can see that we have one contributor. Right now, the only contributor is Pluralsight demo user. In order to change that, we need to go ahead and add another one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up the project settings. From here, we're going to click on Collaborators. Sometimes it wants you to confirm your password before you continue on. So now we can manage our collaborators. I'm going to go ahead and add a friend of mine. So now that I've added myself to this project, I now have a collaborator. That collaborator is allowed to edit this project. Since we're just working with an account, this is pretty basic access that he gets. I can also add another one. So it's pretty easy to go ahead and add yourself to these projects. Once you click the add button, it's done. There's no saving required. And so far, those other two are not contributors. But if they go ahead and make a commit, they will be included in here as well. But they should have access to everything at this time. So the next thing we're going to do is take a look at how to set this up with an organization instead. Let's go ahead and switch. If we jump back to our organization, we can now open up this new repository that we created. You'll notice there's a little bit less information here than there was before. We can go ahead and add ourselves some team members. So if we were to go to the same place we were before and look at collaborators, you'll notice that we now have the option to choose a team. The owner's team is already listed here. So since this user account that we're logged in with is an owner, we have access to modify these. Right now there are no other teams, so we need to go create one. To do that, we go back to the organization. If you click on that, you go to the organization public page, whereas I want to go to the back-end one. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on this little home button, and it's going to take me back to the back-end version of the organization. From here you'll see teams. We currently have the owner's team, which has our one user account in it, but if we want to instead go to a new team that has different permissions than the full admin rights of the owner, we're going to go ahead and create a new one. To do that, we decide on the name of the group, so we might call them the Developer Team 1 for lack of a better name. The next thing, and this might be a little bit confusing, is that you decide what type of permission to grant. Now notice we're on the organization here, not on the project. That's why it's a little bit weird. So we can decide what type of permission we want to give to this team. For now, let's go ahead and say push and pull. That is essentially read and write access to the project. We then need to decide who the members are. We're going to go ahead and add one of my other accounts. So if we add this account, it's now a member of this team. This team can be saved, and it currently has access to no projects. So if we take a look, that team is here and has no repositories. We can add our other repository. So you'll see the ducking octolana here. If we add that project, Now all of a sudden, this account has access to this repository with push and pull permissions. It's a little bit strange because we're doing this at the level of the organization and not at the project. So if we save this, that permission's now there. So you'll notice one user with push and pull access to one repository. If I remove that and go to that repository, we're going to go ahead and save, and take a look at the repository. And if we look at the current collaborators, you'll notice that because we removed it, there are no extra teams, but we could choose this team and add them from here. So now what's strange here is when we're adding based on the project, you'll notice we have no control over the amount of access they get. So make sure when you're doing this type of thing that you're actually going to the teams page and confirming what type of access you're giving. So, and there's a little shortcut you can click on. If you click on the team that you've just added, you can confirm what type of permission they have. Now remember, this goes for all of the projects, every repository. So if you notice that they've got too much access for your repository, you can't just put them down because they might need push access somewhere else. So keep in mind that if you do need to do that, you can create a second account. So if Ducking Octolana needs a special team, so we might say the Ducking Octolama stakeholders might be the name of a group, and we don't want our stakeholders with push access, so instead we're just going to give them pull access. These are the people that are interested in the project, but not the ones that are going to be making the changes. So we can add members here. And so once we add those and save that, we've now given pull access to this group. So if you're in the developer team, you'll get pull and push. If you're in the stakeholders team, you'll get just pull access. So sometimes you have to do a little bit more than you want. Sometimes it's easier this way. Just make sure that you know how it's working and you'll do just fine. So the last thing I want to show while we're talking about organizations and permissions is what you do when you want to remove someone. This is pretty important in case someone leaves your dev team and you want to make sure that you get them off the team. There are a couple of ways you can do this. If an entire team leaves and you want to remove that entire permission, you can click on the remove button and that'll remove them from any repositories that they have access to. The next thing you can do is go into any one of these and individually remove the users. So if I click remove here and click save, that user has lost his permission. I'm going to go ahead and put it back for now so I can show the next demo. So if I go ahead and put that account back on here and click save again, and we take a look at the teams, I'm in two different spots. Imagine if we had a ton of teams. It would take a while to go through each one and make sure that account is gone. So the way that we can do that is the account settings of the organization. So what we do is we go up to account settings. If we switch down here, we switch from the user account settings to the organization settings. If we take a look at members, you'll see that this lists everyone who has access through any of the teams. If we click on remove here, this will go ahead and remove that account entirely from the organization. So now that it's gone, if we go ahead back to the organization and take a look at our teams, you'll see that that user's gone from this one and gone from this one. So if you ever need to remove someone entirely, completely eliminate their access, that's how you do it.